Hello friends, how are you? Come on in. Welcome to Cabin in the Woods Studio. It is neither a cabin nor is it in the woods, but it's very aspirational. A lot of you have asked to see the studio, so I figured what better time to do it than an entire year after you've asked for it. So thanks to my wife for filming this on our Labor Day break. Let's start by talking about the studio in general. So this was a completely white, empty box. It was a mother-in-law suite that we had behind our house that we purchased here in Austin. And over here was all of a countertop and cutouts for shelves and cabinets and all of that. And we ended up removing all of it and just making it a completely empty box. So I got the chance to put all of my sound treatment in and choose a paint color and finally think about how to arrange a studio in a very ergonomic, workflow-centered way. And now, an entire year and a half later, things are humming along. Let's start over here. On the back wall, we have the Korg Polysix, along with 2 racks of guitar pedals, which everything is wired into the studio at all times. So actually that's pretty important. Let's start with that. So let's start over here with the desk. So the desk is the main brain to everything. It's a DeFi platform desk, and I'm running 3 different Apollo interfaces here, 2 with preamps, 1 without. So everything is wired into these here, and this allows me to just record everything at any time. So I don't have to run around and plug a cable in, which I'm very happy and fortunate that I was able to do at this point. So everything is wired into here, and then now we can talk about the back wall. So now we have all of the instruments here minus 1 that is in the shop at the moment. But I'm running a Korg Polysix. I have 2 tiers of guitar pedals. And then below I have one of the most used machines in the studio, the Otari MX5050B2, which I use a lot for throwing things to tape and slowing it down and capturing it back. I have a looper and the Solo Dallas tower here. So all that's wired in so I can send audio to and from these effects at all times. So I can run a piano or a guitar or a voice or a synth or anything into these, and it's running back into the studio. Okay, moving along over here, we have kind of the way I get in and out to the interfaces, which is this Rupert Neve Devices RND-i8. So I have all the synths and the effects hardwired into this. So they're hitting the DI first and then going straight into the interfaces. And then a patch bay that is not being used, basically. The guitars are running into, or the pedal board is running into Rupert Neve DIS, which is this 2-channel, which is really cool because you can also take a through out and run it to amps so you can get kind of wet and dry going. And then storage for upcoming pedals and projects and cast-offs and all of that stuff. These are 2 DeFi sidecars that I wedged together to create kind of a table so that everything can sit atop it. And what we have atop it are 3 space echoes, which is definitely overkill. But these 2 here are from Soundgas in the UK, and they're being run in stereo. And then this here from Echofix is being run just in mono. So all 3 of these together, I can get center, left, and right. So you can get some really wild things happening here. And then this is the DeLorean. It's what makes time travel possible, which is actually the flux capacitor, which makes time travel possible, powered by 1.21 gigawatts, which is either through plutonium or lightning. Okay, and then we have the Korg SQ10, which is the analog sequencer, which is seated above my most prized possession out here, which is my Korg PS3100, which is just a beautiful sounding synth. It's also been my most problematic synth since owning it for the last 2 years, but that's what you get with vintage equipment, with pieces of components that are no longer made anymore. So check out Double Hard Audio in Austin, Texas if you are in need of synths that need to come back to life, because JP brought this back to life for me. So that was really awesome. On the other side of the sidecar here, I have my Nagra 4S, which is just a beautiful work of art, but also sounds just really incredible. And I often will just throw things to this and just capture it back just so it's imprinted on tape. It's kind of like taking an analog photo. And underneath is a Tascam 424, some old Ibanez gear, and my old MIDI stuff. So just kind of all there for fun. And then on the sides here, we just have some storage, and that's the DeFi sidecar section here. Moving over to the other side, we normally have my Moog Mini Moog sitting atop here, but she is out for repair at the moment. But beneath it is the Juno 60, which is from Rosensound, and then the Memory Moog, which is just an endlessly amazing machine, which I got from Street Legal Guitars, which was done by JP Double Hard as well. Beneath that is my Fender Deluxe Reverb. This is a 1974 or 75 silver face that got a blackface mod. And I bought this at 30th Street Guitars back when I was living in New York, and it gigged with me all through those years. It's just an amazing amp. You can't fake the Fender sound. And then on the topic of amps, I have over here a Alessandro Quarteraz, and it is sort of like a hybrid of a Fender and a Dumble. And it's really unique because you can run these two channels at the same time without it going out of phase. It sounds incredible. It's just so pristine and clean. And I have a Royer 121 microphone in front of it that is just so perfect. And also just have to pause for this amazing camera work. Dude, camera person, would you like some coffee?
Yes. Okay,
let's break for coffee. Cheers. Delicious. Okay, so that's kind of the back wall. So everything here is being plugged into the Rupert Neve DI, and that allows me to just have all of these on at all times so I can try out an idea, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, move on to something else. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but the rug is often remarked on Instagram by you all. This was from Ruggable. This was from Ruggable, and it is massive, and it's so cool because the floor here is concrete. And so kind of talking about the space again a little bit, we have these massive ceilings, which are like 14-foot ceilings, and then we have concrete floor. So I had to do a lot of treatment in here to keep everything feeling nice and tight, but not too sterile, which I think is really important because you want it to feel like an actual room. And talking about the sound, I have the DeFi panels up on the wall and also a hybrid of GIK absorption panels as well. And then further talking about sound, I would be remiss not to talk about my beloved Genelecs. I've been using these since I've basically went to school. I've been using these for like 20 something years now. My ears are just tuned to these speakers. I know what they do, I know how they sound, and I know how they translate, which is really the most important thing. If you know how your equipment works, it doesn't matter how good your equipment is. I also have it set up in surround, 5.1 surround, so we have two rear speakers over here, one on each side, and a subwoofer behind the desk, and the left, center, right up here, because I do a lot of work in broadcast, in advertising and television. So we mix a lot in surround. So talking about the Genelecs a little bit, the easiest thing about them is that I was able to use their GLM software, which calibrates to the space that you're in. So if you have a treated room, you can push this over the finish line by using the calibration software, and it's just brilliant. So well done, Genelec. On the desk itself, not very fun or important. I'm using the Avid S1 for control surface, and I'm running a Mac Studio M4 Max, which I just completed the transition to this week. So that was pretty fun. I have a couple of my favorite things here, Chroma console and the Chase Bliss CXM. These are wired together for the nerds that want to know about that. And then Norns in the middle, which is my secret weapon. It's just a cool looking space device that does certain things that nothing else in the world can do. So it's very cool. All right, my chair, my favorite chair. Thank you for the direction. My favorite chair, the Herman Miller Aeron chair. Again, I've been sitting in these in studios ever since I started working in studios. They're the most comfortable chair that I've ever sat in, and it is the least fun, sexy thing to talk about as far as gear goes, but it is just so worth the investment when you're seated on your butt all day. You feel very comfortable and you don't get fatigued as much. Underneath here too, I have the old Native Instruments S49, just as a MIDI controller. Nothing fancy about it, but it just works, and that's the important thing. Since we're over here, we can talk about this, talk about the rack. This is my beloved modular rack. It's got everything in it that I use and a lot that I don't. So it's kind of evolved a lot over the years and is a huge writing tool for me. So that's connected to the interfaces via ADAT, which is optical light pipe. And then we have the Soma Synths Cosmos, which is hardwired in so I can send anything to and from it. And it's just an awesome sound manipulation tool. It's an idea generator. It's really, really neat. On the first drawer here of another DeFi platform, we have another Soma synth, the Lyra 8. We have the Tascam 414, excuse me, that I do a lot of stem printing to and pitch control with. Massive, massive tool for me. And then another not fun thing to talk about, but so important in a studio, is a uninterruptible power supply. So all my really important stuff is plugged into this, so if during a Texas storm or something like that, the power goes out, this instantly flips over to battery to protect you from losing any of your work or destroying any of your gear. So it gives you a few minutes to kind of safely power everything down. So again, another worthwhile studio investment. All right, how you doing, babe? Good. Good. What else should we talk about here? We have the guitars, which I've done an in-depth video on, which perhaps I can link to somehow on this YouTube video, maybe the button up there. You can watch that. I go through all the guitars here. Keep my favorite one over here, which is the Hannah, which is named after my wife, who is filming right now. Thank you. And we have a secondary computer set up over here. This is for doing show re-recording of like Dugan auto mixes and stuff, kind of running things through that while the main rig is working on other things. And then this is kind of a messy kitchenette at the moment, so we won't go too far into it, but this is where I have a lot of storage, boxes. It's been growing outwards somehow, and it's causing a great deal of anxiety for me, so maybe we won't talk about that right now. But this is where all my records are. These records have moved with me from Brewster to Astoria to Brewster to Astoria to Austin to Austin. So these things have gone through 6 different moves, and this shelf is from IKEA. So way to go, IKEA. I think it was like $100 at the time that I bought it. For fun, I have a television over here, which has a VHS player, because I've got tapes over there, which I sometimes just throw on just to have noise in the background while I'm doing some other things. And that might be it. I guess the last thing we talk about is that I've got these super heavy curtains which do double duty, which are both for sound but also for the hot, bright Texas sun, which is probably bright right now. I think that's about it. I mean, if you have any other questions or anything like that, you want me to show you specifics of that, drop a comment below. And thank you so much for being here.